My name is Clay, and I am far from what you would consider an outdoorsy person. I've been on a hike or two, but that's where my survival skills end. This should have been enough to deter me from moving to the mountains of rural Montana to start a Bitcoin farm. Let me explain further, for those who may not understand. Bitcoin mining is a process where a special built computer solves complex problems and gets paid for it. It can be a lucrative investment if you have the capital, but one of the drawbacks is how much power the computers consume. A hefty bill at the end of the month really cuts into one's profits. That's why when I found a piece of land in the mountains that was equipped with hydroelectric power, I was jumping at the bit to move miles away from my friends and family to start a homestead, far removed from civilizations. It wasn't like I wanted to move out to the mountains, but the property was a steal. The house itself seemed too good to be true. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, wrapped up in a rustic home that almost resembled a cabin. Fast forward about 2 months, and my girlfriend and I had already toured the place and made the down payment. Our relation was immeasurable when we were notified that we got it, since there were some other speculative buyers. It didn't take us long for us to uproot our lives as they were and move in. By late summer, we had arrived, getting there just ahead of the moving trucks on a peaceful Friday evening. The air was filled with the sounds of insects chirping and wildlife communicating off in the distance. The movers were quick, and once our things were deposited inside, we were left alone to start our new lives. Almost at once, we started noticing things we had missed when we initially toured the place. "Were these here before?" Annabelle asked, referring to the deep gouges in the front door. I looked up upon the damage with more curiosity than anything. "I don't know, but it doesn't look like an animal made them," I said. I suppose it was possible for a bear to have left the marks, but that's the only animal I could imagine tall enough, and with enough deliberation, to slash deep scars into the door all the way to the height of my head. For reference, I am about 6'2". This made us launch a little investigation as we took a walk around our new home. We found something else strange at the back door. A large chain was attached to the ground, mostly concealed by the overgrown grass. Someone had kept a dog tied up just outside the back door. "That's just disgusting," Annabelle said. I agreed and went to pull the chain up. Even more odd was the dog collar had still been attached to the end. It would appear that the dog was rather large. Darkness was falling over our land. What a weird concept. This land actually belonged to us. We went inside and started getting things situated. Next week, the mining computers would be arriving, and I wanted to be ready. But as we were getting situated, we noticed something else odd. Standing on our back porch, not a single animal could be heard. Just minutes ago, the forest sounded alive, but now we could hear a pin drop. It was at that moment we heard it for the first time. From somewhere deep in the forest, a loud cry rang out. It was far off, sure, but sounded horrendous all the same. Imagine a sound you heard in a nightmare, and that would put you in the ballpark of what this sounded like. It was definitely of no animal I knew of. Annabelle and I looked to each other, but we weren't immediately concerned. We had expected to experience new wildlife, so we just brushed it off. Evening fell to dusk, and then darkness. Sometime around 2 in the morning, I awoke to a weird sound. It was something scraping outside. That's the only way I could describe it. As I lay there listening, I tried to zero in on what was making this noise. Just as I was becoming more awake, however, it went away. Hindsight is great, but in the moment, it's easy to brush off certain oddities and tell yourself there's a rational explanation. That's what I did, as I just decided to go get a drink, then go back to bed. The house was 2 stories, and the staircase bends at a 90-degree angle as it descends into the pitch-black lower floor. Right where the staircase changed direction, there was a line of windows. They hadn't bothered me earlier, but for some reason they felt different now. As I walked past them, I had to fight the urge to check behind me, looking for danger. Something primal was telling me a predator was watching. Eventually, this urge won, and I looked out the window. And at first, I could make out nothing, but right before I returned my attention to walking, I saw something. No, it had to be a someone. Hunched over at the edge of the woodline was a figure. It didn't look like any animal I'd ever seen before. At the same time, it didn't look like a person either. It looked bipedal but sick, like it was impossibly thin and irregular. I was in a dazed state, questioning the legitimacy of what I was seeing. Then the thing stood up. If there was any question as to whether this thing had crawled right out of a nightmare, I could now say with certainty this creation was of pure evil. Its lanky body unfolded as it stood, shadowy complexion hiding the fine details of its features. It was tall, about as tall as myself, and it looked dangerously malnourished. It wouldn't be a stretch to say the creature appeared dead already. The worst part, however, were the damn horns jutting out of its skull. They nearly resembled a deer's antlers, but not quite. If you've ever hovered your hand over an unlit burner on a stove, and your body instinctually wants to recoil, that's how looking at this thing was. Every primal instinct in my body told me to just run. The creature finished standing into an upright position, looking right at me. I feared at any moment it was going to start sprinting in my direction. Not wanting to face my soon-be attacker, I ran back to the bedroom. I couldn't believe what I had just seen, or thought I had seen. I will regret what I did next for the rest of my life. Annabelle and I should have left that night, just got in the car and drove far away from the mountains of Montana. There is something evil in this forest, something straight out of an urban legend. I slid on some shoes and pulled a jacket on before tiptoeing downstairs to the back door. The night air was chilly, and the wind rustled the tops of the trees all around. Under different circumstances, it would have been charming, but the silence of the forest was deafening. Flashlight in hand, I started walking to where I thought I had saw the thing. I was only a couple 100 feet away from my house when I was at the edge of the woodline, right where I had seen that abomination. I was almost convinced I had been dreaming all along when a scream rang out from my house. It was Annabelle. Her voice carried a sense of dire fear, a scream one makes in their final moments. I raced back to the house, exploding through the front door and up the stairs. It was all too late. She was gone. Not only was she nowhere to be found, but the place looked more or less like it had. If she had been taken, she didn't put up much of a struggle. I called for help, begging the police to get there as fast as possible. The operator implored me to stay on the line and stay in the house. As ashamed as I am to say this, I listened. I knew now that what I saw was no dream. I knew that thing had Annabelle. The police arrived, and soon they had dog teams scouring the woods. No trail was ever found, and the dogs were unable to track her. When the 1-mile search radius didn't yield results, the searchers extended it deeper into the forest. In my statement to the police, I left out the details of their wretched creation I had seen outside. I didn't think that they would believe me, and it might actually incriminate me. With the information I had given them, They believed she had been abducted. They were baffled as to how someone could have taken her and gotten away. But I know the thing that took her was no man. Annabelle is gone because of me, so how could I go on like nothing happened? It's been 6 months since she went missing now, and I'm finally writing this down because the thing that took her is back.